Welcome back, everybody. It's Mo again. So in this lecture, what we're going to do is how can we store the zones in Active Directory so the zone gets replicated to the second server. So if you recall, let me just log on to my second server and show you here that even though I actually opened DNS, I'm not going to see the zone. Let me go back to server one, all right, and log on. Watch this. So if I check over here and I refresh, I only see one name server. So what I need to do is I need to right click on the zone, properties, change, and store the zone in Active Directory, which means I'm going to store it in the database of Active Directory. Then click OK. Then yes. And look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to change it to secure only. I'm going to show you what this actually does. This will affect the client machines. All right. But for now, I want to see if the zone gets replicated. Then apply. Then OK. I'll restart the service just to refresh. And let me go ahead and refresh the zone over here. I still see one. Let me go back here, restart the service on this machine, and then refresh the actual zone. And there you go. I have the zone. Now I have two name servers, you see, which means this server, I could go to local server here, right? I have two DNS servers. They're hosting the same zone in case one fails. There's another one that is actually up and running. This is 162. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say my alternate one is 162. See that? 223, 162. Then okay, then okay. Then I'm going to go back to my first server, go to Server Manager, and make sure my preferred is pointing to 162, and the alternate will be itself. So if I go Properties, right? So I'm going to change this to 192, 168, 223, 162, and alternate will be pointing to itself. This is the proper way of actually doing so. In case this one fails, I'm pointing to myself. All right, then okay, then okay. Well, what do they mean by secure updates? So let me refresh this. I see two actual ones, but look at this. So I have properties and I see secure only. What does this mean? This will reflect to the client machines. Let's say W101. Okay, let me start W101 over here and show you something. W101 is not part of the domain. Remember, it's actually on a work group. So let's take a look and see how this works for us. Give it a few seconds, because we never joined this to the actual domain, right? This is not part of the domain. Let me put the password and log on. So if I go to this machine and I say, you know what, delete the record, okay? And then I'm going to come back over here and say, let me open the command prompt as administrator and try and run ipconfig/register DNS, all right? So let me just do this, color 2, and do ipconfig space/register DNS. Is it going to register the A record? No, it's not. Do you know why? Because I said, if you want to register records into my zone, you better be on my domain. And this machine is a work group. Look at this. Let me just show you here. This PC, properties, it's still a work group. Okay, so if I go back here and I change this to non-secure and secure, watch this now. And I go back here and I say, let me do the registration again. Watch this now. Okay, let me refresh. And now I see it. Do I see the difference? I'm going to delete it again. And let me go back to the properties. So I always like to leave it as secure only and leave it as secure only, then okay. So what I have to do is I really have to go to my network settings first of all here. Remember, I have an extra DNS server. So I'm going to open my network settings, go to the properties, right? Go to IP version 4 properties, and I'm going to say an alternate DNS server, which is 162. In case one fails, I have another one up and running. And I'm going to join the domain. And then you'll see it's going to register the A record. So let me click on here, change settings, right? Change and domain and Udemy, right? Dot local. And let me authenticate, which is using what? Kerberos as an authentication protocol. That's the one that verifies the username and the password. Let's click OK, OK. And once it restarts and it logs in, I'm going to see the record. All right. So let me see here. I don't see it yet. All right. It's not in the list. Let me wait for this one to come up. It should not take long. So I'm not going to be pausing the video. Let's just stare at the screen and see how this actually works out for us. So I always like to do secure only. That's when I store. The only time you get this option is if you store the zones in Active Directory, you get the secure only option. So that's what we're going to be looking into. Let's give it a moment. I'm going to log on to the domain. Then I'll refresh. I should see the A record automatically because this machine is actually part of the domain. All right. It's part of the domain. That's what I want to actually look into. Let's give it a moment. Almost there. All right. And I should get the log on screen soon. All right, there we go. Let me log on to the actual domain. I'm going to put Udemy, right, slash administrator, let's say, and then the actual password itself, right? Because I need to authenticate with the domain. And once I do so, let me just refresh over here. There you go. You see that? So this is DNS. This is the most concepts I would say you need to know to work in the field as when it comes up to DNS troubleshooting, installing, and configuring. Well, this is done for this section. Our next section, I'm going to show you how to set up Windows 2019, and then let's say the company you're going to be working with merging with 2022. You're going to be upgrading. How can we merge between 2019 and 2022? That's going to be our next section. Is going to be a lot of fun. So let me tell you this for our next section, what we actually need is two servers. One of them is going to be 2019, the other one is going to be 2022, and I'll do a Windows 11, even though most commonly you'll see Windows 10 in a corporate environment, but it's the same thing when it comes up to a client system. So one server of 2019, one server 2022, and a Windows 11 machine. So we'll see you folks in our next section. For now, bye everyone.